welcome to the July record-breaking heat meeting. And, you know, isn't this air conditioning wonderful? Isn't it nice to have a cool place to go at the end of the day? A really cool place, and, you know, the electric bill is not coming directly out of your pocket. All right, let's talk. The first thing we've got is field trips. We have one Saturday morning going to Papillionium Natives Nursery in Round Rock, starting at 9. Directions, details are on the website, including a map. And that's the website right there, nipsotwilco.org. And then we have a Hidden Springs plant survey, August the 12th at 8 a.m. No. San Antonio Botanical Garden guided tour, September the 30th at 10 a.m. And this is in result. Yes, sir.
It's your smiling face.
Okay. All right. The San Antonio Botanical Garden tour is like last year we gave a nice donation to their endangered species project, Michael Easton's project there. And so we are going, and we should get some extra insight into that. It'll be a guided tour. It's not just walking around and looking at horticulture specimens, as it might sound to the uninitiated.
It's 10 o'clock in San Antonio.
Yeah, 10 a.m. at the Botanical Garden in San Antonio. Oh, and then we've got Hidden Springs plant surveys. And then look, River Ranch, the new county park, Liberty Hill, November 26th. How exciting is that? All right, and then we have upcoming programs. We're all the way up through January. Susie Hickman does a great job. Next month is going to be orchids. Note that it is at the Georgetown Parks and Recreation Administration building, and that address will be on the website with the announcement. That is across the San Gabriel River from San Gabriel Park in Georgetown. If you're not on the south side, backed up to the Texas Disposal Transfer Station. Okay. At the end of the fancy garbage truck bridge. And we will also be there. In fact, this is our last meeting in this library until Christmas meeting, till December, because they're ripping out the carpet and they're going to fix the projector and, you know, just all kinds of stuff, and their inventory and et cetera, et cetera. We'll be there for September also. And we might be at the Parks and Recreation Administration building in October and November also, but we might have another option. So we hate to meet there after daylight savings time because it's really a black hole up in there, and, you know, it's dark and so forth. So, but we're keeping our options open. Then we're back here, and then I believe in January we'll be here for Wizzy Brown talking about fire ants. I want to thank our crew, Gary and Sue and Ann, and who is that? Christy. And somebody else, and Randy. And Nancy Pumphrey's taking the picture, I'll bet you. Okay. Cleaned up that Williamson County landfill pollinator garden. That is our oldest, I believe, pollinator garden. Correct me if I'm wrong. It's still in operation. It's a big one. It was done in partnership with the master naturalist. And if the light wasn't on, you could see that why you want the Native Plant Society cleaning up the pollinator garden, because you have observant workers that can see things like the probably black swallowtail chrysalis there on the prairie parsley seed. So, you know, it was done right. Got free plants back there, and hopefully y'all have been kind of grazing and grabbing. The predominant plant is Viguera stenoloba skeleton leaf goldeneye, a good drought tolerant one that blooms in the fall or later in the summer. I always think of these that bloom a little bit later as monarch migration starts coming back south. This is fresh nectar. This plant has not been sitting there all summer long flowering and has worn out and been sucked down by every bug that came by. This is new, you know, it's like brand new for them. So the other things we have back there are Flamacanthus from Mark And we have Scarlet Pea back there that I didn't have a sign for. It's a cute little thing, kind of sprawly. Chili Pekin, looks like there might be one or two. They have a nice crop of fruit on them. Illinois bundle flower, we have plants and seed of that. We have some autumn sage, and there's a lot of other stuff that's floated in via the plant rescue and just people's yards and so forth. So really a nice cafeteria of native plants, free native plants back there. Coming up on July 22nd, not this Saturday, but the next, the Good Water Master Naturalist chapter event at the Annex AgriLife building. Speakers are from our area from 1 to 4, and then Doug Tallamy will speak virtually at 7 p.m. 6? He's at 6, excuse me. I was copying from the first thing sent to me. Okay, it's over at 7. All right, from balconies to backyard. Here is the information or how to sign up. Attendee and intent. If you attend in person or virtually, but the deadline for in-person registration is tomorrow. Okay, and it's $30, right?
$30.
And that includes
a
box dinner from Sweet Lemon Kitchen. Any questions? Ask Cindy if you do. She's the president of that group. Right. We were founded in '97. Here's how you can see what we're doing, keep up with what's going on. The blog is our chapter newsletter. Please sign up for the email notifications of the post. I've already been told this evening, well, I used to get those and I don't get them anymore. I thought it was that's the new way. I thought it was going to be automatic. It's not. I myself missed 2 months of notifications because I thought it was going to be automatic, and I was on all the discussion to do it in the first place. So I'm your head dummy. You got to go out there and re-sign up again if you have not. You don't want to miss anything. And that's where you're going to sign up. And I'm hammering it down because we're just not getting, I don't think we're back to number. How many, Pat Donica, our webmaster, is here. How many subscribers do we have? And we had 300 plus. Yeah. Right. But right. Because we have close to 300 chapter members now. So may not, you may be subscribed, but if somebody's complaining, well, I'm not getting it. That's it. You got to go subscribe. All right. This is our annual chapter meeting that we used to have an election, and with show of hands, we voted on the new officers. But with the wonderful electronic age brought on, slammed into us by the pandemic, we now vote online, and we actually have more voters, I think, than we have in the room. So we had about 51 of about 300 elected our new board. Nancy Copperman is not here tonight. Gary Bowers over here will be our vice president. And Ann Adams is moving from treasurer to secretary, and that's her sitting there next to my husband in the green shirt. And Mark Stutzer is going to be our new treasurer right there with the sunglasses on his head. And is Tyson here? Tyson is here, yes, one of our board members. And Christy Gardner, I know, is here. There she is, new board member. And then I'll be tacked on there as your past president. So, all right, and then we have the appointed board positions, and they were appointed by the elected board. We have an opening for education. If somebody feels led or the fire under their feet to get us back into having NLCP classes, that's what that's involved. It's involved there. And then with Nancy Copperman moving to president, we have the membership chairman open. That's a really good, if you don't know plants at all, that's a really good position, but you'd like to get to know the chapter members and who they are and so forth, and get to know you'll be on the board and so forth. That's a good position. So for that, I'm not going to tell you it doesn't do anything though, because lightning would strike me. But, right. Then we have Randy and I flip back and forth between plant sale, and so my name's first now because I'm not going to be president anymore. So, dumps back on me, and then Susie is still doing programs, and Nancy is doing a fantastic job with projects like organizing and so forth, that landfill cleanup. And Diana Wilson is still doing social media, and Pat Donica, best webmaster in the world back there on the back, is mercifully still our webmaster. Right. Informational slide. Always take note of the location of the meeting, especially between now and Christmas. An in-person attendee at tonight's meeting will win this book, Exploring the Edges of Texas. And Sue has donated it. It's inscribed to Sue and Charlie. And I just finished, hang on, Randy. I got it 2 nights ago and I read it. I finished it this morning. It is awesome. There's not a whole lot about native plants, but there's everything in the world about native Texas and the land and so forth. So it's just kind of a travel log of the edge of the border of Texas. And then they dug back into time, sometimes in prehistoric time, but many of the explorers from the 1700s and so forth, what they saw in these different areas on the edge of Texas, they went back and tried to find and talk to people who knew the land and so forth. So to me, that's the kind of information I like to read, because it gives me such an understanding of, you know, habitats and what's going on and what's different and why things perform as they do. So I thought it was an awesome book. It also is available on Kindle. All right, tonight's program, Hot Stuff, is the brainchild of Sue Wiseman and Kathy Galloway.
The title is from Nancy.
But the title is from Nancy Pumphrey. I'm telling you, the brains of this whole operation exist in the Field Trip Committee. It doesn't pay to miss a meeting if you're the president. So, but what they decided was we needed a short program, because it was business meeting night, on the native Texas plants that will flower for you through the heat of July and August on low water. No, you got 1 or 2 or 3 that are really good, but they'll kind of, like today I noticed gray globe mallow. Hadn't been getting watered. It's quit flowering. It's still pretty and gray. Didn't make the cut because it's just not flowering anymore. So there are 10 that generally like it better like this and do a better job. So, and I'm going to ask these 2 to commentate on them. So, first one is flame acanthus, and there's some of those back there. And if you irrigate your yard and water and you have flame acanthus, it doesn't look like that, because it's attractive to butterflies and hummingbirds. One of the prettiest ones is growing at the Texas Disposal Transfer Station in pure gravel rock, just passed by garbage trucks every day and never ever water except for what falls out of the sky. And it makes a total flame of red. So, and in a public garden that I manage, I have to warn the people not to water it. Please don't water it. I want flowers, because if you water it, it's like,
It needs drainage.
it needs drainage.
In natural areas, it is in, the biggest one I've ever seen was down along the Rio River. Not on the river, but way up on a high end of the gravel park. It's
Okay.
the size of about a Volkswagen.
Sue Wiseman says she's the biggest one she's ever seen, the size of a Volkswagen Beetle, was on the upside of the bank of the Frio River. So I'm assuming in full bloom, humming with hummingbirds.
Do we cut it down or do we not cut it down in the winter?
Do you cut it down or do you not cut it down in the wintertime? That's up to you. I don't think it affects how fast it comes up and blooms. Oh, Sue Wiseman says she levels hers.
Well,
Rounds it. I live north of I-20 and I cut it to the ground. Had to, you know, it froze every year. So yeah, but it still came back vigorous and large. So apparently the one on the Frio River had never been cut or grazed or whatever. So you've got varying opinions. Yes, sir.
Do you think it would grow in gumbo clay?
Would it grow in gumbo clay? It grew in prairie clay in Louisiana. Okay, Sue says hers is in granite gravel.
yeah, granite gravel is
For the top foot. Okay. Do what? Expanded shale would probably also work with that. So, all right, let's move on to our next plant. Texas lantana. Mine is blooming like crazy with no water whatsoever on it, other than what is falling from the sky or out of the gutter. It does kind of do, I would say it's cyclical. You know, it flowers and fruits and then sets back and then sets some more flowers. So wonderful pollen.
You cut it before it fruits.
If you cut it before it fruits, according to Kathy, it will flower quicker.
You'll make the mockingbirds.
Mark says you will make the mockingbirds angry. But on the other hand, it's not hard to make a mockingbird angry. That's the only thing that makes your mockingbird angry. Your mockingbird's on medication. So. Right. Esperanza or yellow bells. I know just from driving around town that the yellow one doesn't care whether it rains on it or not. There's not as many orange ones, varieties out there, but I see them in full flower. Sue says it's a wonderful plant for low water, and you got to figure when you drive past those houses where they have 12-foot esperanzas growing up by the garage that they're probably overwatering. So it will tell you that. It will still flower at 12 feet, but you know, if you think it won't live, it will. It may have to die back. It may be one of those that after it's been overwatered, when it goes to no water, it may die back, but then it'll come back in its new low water mode. I find Dexminia does that. All right, Damianita, fabulous plant. And this is one, it's considered a shrub, but it's very low. This is in Randy's front yard beside all her cactus. It's very, has very high, the foliage is very fragrant, a camphor-like smell. And with Damianita, in my experience with it here, I have some Damianita don'ts. Do not plant it where water ever stands. I planted a half a flat of them and it rained, a typical Texas rain, 1.5 inches overnight. And they all died but one because they got flooded and drowned just because of the sheer quantity of water coming through. So it's a good time of year to plant them. Unfortunately, I couldn't get you any to give away. Also, don't highly recommend cutting it back to this degree. This was done by a landscaping crew, didn't know any better. But it is an excellent, one of the best, but you cannot water it. Just, give it a little water to let it, just enough to get the soil settled around it when you plant it. And I think leave it alone. Randy, do you have any comment since this was your fabulous one? It is a great butterfly plant. Yep, there's Buckeye. Yep.
It grows off in nature. It grows out of cliffs.
In nature, it grows out of cliffs. There we go. The rock in the hard place again.
You understand?
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Next one that was in the picture of the other one is Blackfoot Daisy. 1 to 2 foot low mound, very low water. Has to have good drainage. And if you water it, you're going to shorten its life. If you give it fancy soil, you're going to shorten its life. It won't live but maybe a year or two if you treat it like an ornamental. But if you can just treat it like it lives on the side of 182 north of Cedar Park, then it'll just reseed and keep going for you. So
Likes rainwater.
Bob Camper said it likes rainwater, but not tap water. We have had it in pollinator beds where it was growing in the edge of granite soil or the crushed granite soil alongside pavement. And this much of the plant was on the concrete with its roots back over here, in the soil. So frog fruit will do the same thing. I've noticed it. Doesn't mind sprawling on a 110 degree or 20 degree concrete. Next one is Mealy Sage. This is another one that might be cyclable for you. You can cut the old flowers off and it will come and reflower. This is at the field right below the dam. It's Lake Georgetown. All summer long, there's blue ones and white ones out there, naturally occurring. This is a wonderful one that's readily available as a landscape plant and really is hard to beat. So Big black bumblebees love it. That's what's, yeah, they're in the picture. They really do. It's interesting to see when you have a lot of different natives like these growing, who goes where. Now, I've got some nice pictures of monarchs on these also. So it's a good one for that. And hummingbirds will go to it also.
And deer will not eat it, nor will goats. Right.
Did not know that about goats. Okay. Right. Most of these plants are not eaten by deer. So, right. For nerve daisy, the other big rock between a rock and a hard place, it is blooming its heart out. It will bloom nearly all year long for you if it's happy and dry. So makes a low mound, pretty yellow flowers, not much foliage. Comments or questions on four nerve daisy?
So they do that also.
Poor gravelly soil. Yes, they will. I have found that they do tolerate better soils and they are forgiving of better soils, as opposed to, the Blackfoot daisy, live fast, die young, leave a good looking corpse. The four nerve daisy is okay with it. It can be floppy. Yes, Bob Camper.
I have a picture of blooming during Snowmageddon.
Yeah.
He's saying he's got a picture of it blooming in Snowmageddon. So, all right. Sexminia is really hard to beat for a native ornamental, and it really doesn't care if you have it under irrigation or not. I have had them where I've had them under irrigation in pots, put them out in the soil and planted them and didn't water them very much, and they completely died back to the ground and then came back with their new drought tolerant foliage. So very, very adaptable. We have a really nice stand of them right outside the library here. It's one of our most dependable flowering plants, period, and it really never does stop flowering. Deadhead or not.
It is where it's in the public.
Yeah, we don't deadhead this one at the library. I think this one at the library may be under irrigation once a week. So it's always got enough flowers on it. That's one of the things, if you're growing natives, if you're concerned, you want to keep things flowering there for pollinators, like the big fat bumblebee that's headed to that one right there. Unless you go in there with scissors and individually clip each one, and that's going to be a lot of work on a Sexminia because there's a lot of flowers. Yes. Probably our most famous Texas native plant outside of bluebonnets, or maybe our most famous Texas native landscape plant would be red yucca. It is almost extirpated, if not all the way extirpated from its native counties, which are northwest northwest of Lake Waco, or west and
Yeah, west of Lake.
Yeah. So been hybridized. It's very easy to propagate from seed. Very common landscape plant. And for a lot of years, like we didn't haul it to the wildflower center for wildflower sale because it's so common in the landscape. And part of the mission and statement is that we're trying to get more native plants into the landscape or into the hands of people. And this one, if you're going to trip over my flowers, you're going to trip over it walking into HEB, I'm not going to haul it over down to the wildflower center. So, but it really did well. We were in our last native plant sale location was we had a lot of newer gardeners or homeowners that were not familiar with native plants, and that went like crazy. And I know they've got to be happy with it with the water restrictions because it doesn't seem to matter one way or another. And it does attract the hummingbirds. Spring until the deer do eat the flowers because it's like candy because the amount of nectar that's in there. Yeah. Do what?
It's asparagus. It's actually whatever you call that.
Oh, it is in the asparagus family. Yes, asparagus. Yeah.
Got to, you gotta, yeah. You want I will put fencing around it where I live.
If you have deer. I don't know, the seed pods are so cool and they're all full of seed pods right now, but I don't know if you cut the seed pods off, you probably would get a fresh shot of blooms because that's the plants, huh? There we know. Okay, there's an experiment. Some of you can cut your pods off and hang them upside down and dry them for fall and If the seed are ripe, you know. Right. Any more comments? That's our 10 plants, our super bloomers for July and August and September. So, yes, sir, Gary. Oh, we got online questions.
Yeah, so when you were talking about Blackfoot daisy,
Yes.
Agnes mentioned probably shouldn't mulch it.
Agnes said, don't mulch Blackfoot daisy. Agnes is right. That most of these you don't want to mulch. That's contrary to their, I want to live in gravel and rocks.
I have another comment, skeleton leaf daisy,
Skeleton leaf goldeneye that we're giving
Yes,
away
goldeneye.
tonight. Yes,
drought tolerant.
it is.
I don't know about cows or deer. I do have it in an enclosed area where we have some cows, but it gets big and blooms all summer without any additional water for several years now. I mean, it's big.
It's the same genus as plateau goldeneye, and I don't
Yes.
think they bother plateau goldeneye, do they?
Very deer resistant.
Very deer resistant.
My deer will sort of mow it every now and then.
Okay, not 100% deer resistant on skeleton leaf goldeneye.
So you didn't mention cowpea daisy.
Cowpen daisy at my house without water is looking sad, very sad. I'm going for, yes, this was like the top, the cream of the crop for flower, you know.
We only wrote down 9.
Oh,
Okay, so maybe.
Maybe I can't count. Maybe I was counting the title slide. Maybe so. Acantha, 2, 3, 4, don't count that one, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
Uh-oh.
Sorry, I looked and said I had 10 slides and I forgot about my Damianita don'ts. Say good night to our virtual attendees. Thank you for joining us.